Yeah, it's rewind time. Today is a final last hardcore awards video in which we are going to be discussing the best albums of the year. It's time to finally take it all in and think about what album in metal, or close to metal, was the best in 2019. Before we begin, as usual, strictly my opinion, very subjective. You don't have to agree with it, disagree with it, you're welcome to do so in the comment section. But yeah, let's begin. So the honorable mentions would be just albums that I really liked this year, but they weren't good enough to end up on my top 10. So these are Strength in Numbers, Fever 333, A Different Shade of Blue, Knocked Loose, The Dark Bull, Thornhill, Macro, Ginger, Disguise, Motionless in White, We Are Not Your Kind, Slipknot, Turn the Light On, Imminence, Lonely World, Acres, Out of Control, Gideon, Helix by Crystal Lake, Trauma, I Prevail, Hotel Diablo, Machine Gun Kelly, Ammo, Bring Me the Horizon, and The Search, NF. Now, some of those albums weren't exactly metal or metalcore. There were 2 rap albums there, but I just included all of the albums that I really listened to this year in these honorable mentions that weren't quite as good for me to put them in top 10. So you might ask me, there's some good albums in there. How come they didn't end up in top 10? And let me tell you why. Number 10, The Sea of Tragic Beasts by Fit for an Autopsy. This is quite possibly one of my favorite deathcore albums of all time. It's just incredible. Starting with riffs, ending with breakdowns, tasty vocals in between. The vocals, I think, is the biggest reason why this album is so good. There's a lot of layering going on. There's clean vocals, kind of. Mostly scream vocals, obviously, because it's deathcore. It's very melodic sometimes, but at the same time, it's super heavy. It's super brutal. It's just an embodiment of a powerful, technical deathcore album. Which I guess Dayarda's Murder Human Target should have been. The Sea of Tragic Beasts was just on another level for me, and it's one of the best albums of the year. So number 10, The Sea of Tragic Beasts by Fit for an Autopsy. Number 9, Sleep Talk by Dayseeker. Sleep Talk by Dayseeker is a different kind of album. It's a much softer album. However, interesting thing about Dayseeker is that they are kind of a proggy band. They have these math rock riffs every now and then, but at the same time they're very pop. They're very sort of kind of mainstream sounding in the sense that their music is kind of soft usually, and so I would describe this album as majority being kind of soft poppy rock music. However, there's still breakdowns, there's still proggy riffs. And this album features some of the best vocals I've heard the whole year. You can hear the emotion, you can hear the range. In general, it's just a really, really good album that I really enjoyed listening to. It's really, really pleasing to your ear. It's an extremely well produced and written album. Go support this band. They recently had their equipment stolen from them. I think there's a page where you can donate to them. So go do that. They really deserve it. One of the best albums of the year. Number 9, Sleep Talk by Dayseeker. Number 8, Sundowning by Sleep Token. Probably the least standard and the least basic album of this whole list. Sundowning by Sleep Token is a very, very different kind of album. The main thing about this album is how incredibly diverse the sound is. You have Bastille or Hozier-like vocals, very expressive, emotional vocals. You have super hardcore punk style breakdowns like the one in Gods, like the one in Higher, like the one in Offering. You have extremely chill songs like Levitate, like Give, like Drag Me Under. It's just a really, really diverse album with a whole bunch of sounds. And somehow, while being this diverse and this different in every single song, it still remains as one thing. You never lose the track of the band, you never lose the track of the sound. It's quite a unique experience, and I don't want to ruin a lot of it for you, so I recommend it. Number 8, Sundowning by Sleep Token.
Say goodbye.
Number 7, Nothing Left to Love by Counterparts. I've heard a lot about Counterparts as a name, as a band. I've never bothered to check any of their music out, and when I checked out their album, which came out quite recently, I felt like an idiot. I missed out on some really good melodic hardcore, and that's exactly what Nothing Left to Love as an album is. It's just an incredible melodic hardcore album that I really, really love. It's super short, it's half an hour long. It's a really hard-hitting, emotional hardcore album with surprisingly a lot of lead guitars, some clean vocals. Even though it's hardcore, it's a melodic hardcore, so there's a lot of melody in it, there's a lot of layers, there's a lot of composition in this album is beautiful. The breakdowns, some of the breakdowns are just amazing. There's a lot of them, by the way. This is a beautiful, beautiful album. Number 7, Nothing Left to Love by Counterparts.
I was born inside my grave. No!
Number 6, The Legends, Shaped by Fire by As I Lay Dying. The reason this album is not as high as some of you might have predicted is because I'm not myself a huge fan of As I Lay Dying. I never was one. I don't consider myself one. I really like the album though. It's a great album. It's really tight. It's very, very level in terms of sound. There's not much variety, I would say, but it's still higher than some of the other ones just because of how amazingly well the songs are written. I think some of the best choruses are in Shaped by Fire. I think some of the best guitar work is in Shaped by Fire. You have the song like Gatekeeper with a Slayer-esque solo. You have The Wreckage, which has an incredible chorus. You have, you know, alongside with choruses from like The Toll It Takes or Undertow. In general, it's just a really, really great metalcore album that I would recommend to anyone who starts off in metalcore. It's really good. It's really solid. It's really true to As I Lay Dying style. Number 6, Shaped by Fire by As I Lay Dying.
From our failures we are replacing.
Number 5, breaking the top 5, is KLLSWITCH Engage, Atonement. Surprisingly not as high as some of you might have predicted it would be. This album is a weird one because I love KLLSWITCH Engage. It's the band that really transformed my my musical taste, with obviously songs like The Fire Burns, with songs like The End of Heartache, etc. There is barely any songs in this album that I can see being, you know, one of those hit legendary songs in like 10 years from now. Like right now it is The End of Heartache or My Curse, you know? There's no songs like that in this album. And while that is true, I still think that this album is an amazingly well-written album. The guitar work is some of the best of the year. The vocals by Jesse Leach are amazing. A lot of hate he got in the past for having pretty weak vocals, especially compared to the man himself, Howard Jones, who is also featured in this album, by the way. Atonement is just a great metalcore album. It has variety. It has slightly gloomier, darker sounds. It has slightly more upbeat songs. It's just, it's an incredibly amazing demonstration of classic metalcore in a modern metalcore setting. But number 5, Atonement by KLLSWITCH Engage. Number 4, So What by While She Sleeps. While She Sleeps, some of you may know, is one of my all-time favorite bands in general, in music. So What was a huge, huge album for me this year. I've listened to it a lot. Which is funny because at first, I thought this album was kind of a disappointment. I gotta admit, the first time I went through back-to-back every single song, I was kind of left with an impression that it didn't have something. It was missing something vital that just didn't make it for me. As days passed, months passed, I realized just how great of an album this actually is. So What has a very clear direction of what this band wanted to do with this one. In my opinion, a much clearer direction than You Are We. Every single song feels extremely well written, extremely well refined. Every single song fits the album perfectly. It's like a seamless collection of songs that is just amazing to listen to. And I love it. I really love it. Not quite the best. Why, you ask me? Well, number 3, The Valley by Whitechapel. And oh boy, The Valley by Whitechapel is one of the most impressive things I've heard this year. One of the most impressive albums I've actually heard in my whole life. There's a huge backstory to this album in terms of lyrics, in terms of mood. Bill Bozeman is the vocalist. He had some childhood struggles with his parents, with his mother. And this album is based on those struggles. This album is based on those experiences. If you go back and read some of those lyrics, and you read the meaning of those lyrics, you'd be really, really impressed by how incredibly depthful this album is. But it's not just the lyrics, and it's not just the incredible vocals by Phil Bozeman that really captures your attention of the Valley. It's also the instrumental. This album has some of the best instrumental of the whole year. When I hear any song from this record, I'm thinking of like dark woods in the middle of the United States of America with mountains, with like wolves roaming around. The thing about this album, it gives you an experience. It paints a picture in your head, and it's something that not a lot of albums are able to do. And I think it's something that is very important. In fact, I supported them by buying a CD because of how much I was impressed by this album. The Valley by Whitechapel is 100% one of the most impressive lyrically, vocally, and instrumentally albums I've ever heard. It's very conceptual. It's an amazing experience. Number 2, not quite the best, but very close to it, was Hailstand by Periphery. This album is great. Thank you, Periphery, so much. It's an extremely elaborate, extremely difficult to understand, extremely technical album that has just so much depth, so much variety, so much fun. You can hear sometimes when the artist is bored while writing music. You know, you get very unenthusiastic and boring albums. This is a prime example of people having fun while writing music. And I 100% am sure that Periphery had a shit ton of fun while writing this album, because that's what it sounds like. You've got a song Reptile, which is an opening track of the album, which is 17 fucking minutes long, and it's incredible. They play it live. It's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. You've got the songs like Crush, which is like vaporwave, Hotline Miami vibes, sort of techno beat song with no guitars but incredible vocals. You've got songs like Satellite, which is just a roller coaster of emotions. You know, there's more standard songs like Sentient Glow and Follow Your Ghost. There's songs like Church Burner, which is just like, what the fuck is happening? I love it with every single particle of my body. It's hands down one of the best Periphery albums ever. But even though it's a great album, it wasn't as good, in my opinion, as number 1, which is Alien by NORTHLANE. This is probably one of the most surprising, one of the most eye-opening pieces of music in 2019 for me. It is the best album of the year for me, 100%. Alien by NORTHLANE is just a huge, huge satisfaction of music. There is drum and bass, there is gent, there is metalcore, there is all kinds of shit. It's incredible how much they were able to put together into the Alien and put out such a strong album in terms of emotions, in terms of heaviness, in terms of breakdowns, in terms of solos, in terms of vocals especially. I think Marcus Bridge could possibly be one of the best metal vocalists out there right now as we speak, because of the amount of range he provided in this album is just insane. The style of this album, I think, is what wins it for me. It's sort of this digital cyberpunk-esque style with songs like 4D especially, which I think is the song of the year for me personally. 4D. It has this sort of like Matrix vibe. It's just, I'm really short for words to explain how much joy I feel whenever I get to listen to an Alien song by NORTHLANE. We got songs like Talking Heads, which is just gent, Meshuggah, jump, scream, mosh pit, fucking destroy everything, destroy everyone. You've got songs like Satellite, which is a much more emotional and soft song that, you know, hits the feels. It's so much variety, it's so much talent, it's so much thought put into one album that is just, it's beyond me. It's truly beyond me how incredible this album is. Alien, best album of the year. Hardcore Awards over. Thank you. So this was my top 10 of the year. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know what you agree or disagree on. Give me your top 10s, give me your honorable mentions. I'll be more than happy to check them out and, you know, see maybe I missed a lot of good music this year. Thank you as usual to my Patreon, my tier 2 patrons, the man himself, Josh Berg, and Ibrahim Povataj, as well as every single other patron in tier 1. You guys are amazing. You guys are what make this channel exist properly. A huge thank you to every single one of you, YouTube commenter, YouTube liker, YouTube subscriber. You guys are also very, very incredible because you give me motivation to keep going. You give me motivation to make more videos like this. And I'm really thankful. I'm really thankful for that. Let me know what you think about albums in 2019. Give me your best albums of the year. Thank you all so much for checking out. Thank you all so much for checking in. This has been Hardcore Awards 2019. This has been the best albums of the year in 2019. And as usual, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.